In the past, I've struggled with low self-esteem. So if someone would call me up to do something, I would just be like, no, 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 no. Hello beauties, my name is Ivory and the topic of today is upgrading your self-esteem.
Before we begin, I'd like to give a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor or therapist of any sort, and I am not offering medical advice. I'm not diagnosing, prescribing, or treating. I am a life coach, and my training is experiential. I am here to share what I have acquired on my journey along the way. Information about services that I offer and or how I can be contacted are located in the description box, or you can go to the Recover and Level Up Facebook page. Life in itself is an adventure. Let's enjoy the journey together. Thank you.
So as you follow along, I'm going to give you a few definitions of what low self-esteem is. I'm going to give you examples of behaviors that people with low self-esteem exhibit. I'm going to tell you how low self-esteem is often developed. I'm going to give you the reasons why you should work at upgrading and developing a higher self-esteem. And finally, I'm going to give you a comprehensive list of steps that you can take to immediately start developing your self-esteem today. Let me just begin with stating what low self-esteem isn't. Low self-esteem is not developed from a one-time event. It's not like this isolated thing that happened to you, a time that you didn't succeed at something, or a time that you were embarrassed about something, you felt bad about something. I know that life's failures can actually bring about bad feelings, and it could be long-lasting, it could be quite dramatic, but this ain't that. Low self-esteem has to do with your overall self-image. And I'm not just talking about the way that you look, although that can have something to do with how you feel about yourself. Self-esteem is more so internal. It's not this external, I feel good, I'm tall, I'm pretty, I have pretty hair, I'm light skinned, or I'm dark skinned. Those can be contributing factors to your self-esteem, but it's really more than that. It has more to do with your internal self-image. It's how you feel about yourself. It's how you present yourself to the world. It has to do with how you value yourself. Some believe that self-esteem is nothing more than self-confidence, but it's actually a little more than that. Though self-esteem and confidence are related, they're not exactly the same, and I'm going to explain. Self-confidence is the power and the ability to go for what it is that you want based on your talents, skills, and abilities. So just say, for instance, you're job hunting and you see a job that you know that you're qualified for. You possess the self-confidence to go ahead and apply for that position. On the other hand, if you don't possess the skills that the job calls for, a lot of times your confidence is not as strong. You're kind of like, I hope I can fudge the interview. I hope I can deceive these people into believing that I have what it takes. But self-esteem has more to do with your self-worth. Whether or not you feel worthy or deserving, go out and get the things that you want out of life. So you could actually have the confidence in your abilities. You know that you're talented, you know that you're educated. So you could have the confidence, but you may not feel that you're worthy or that you're deserving of these things. So by now, I hope that you're beginning to see the picture or understand what it is that I'm explaining. You should have a more clear understanding of what self-esteem is. But just in case you don't, I'm going to go into detail about the behaviors that people who possess or have low self-esteem, the behaviors that they exhibit. So here we go. People with low self-esteem have the need to be perfect because they fear failure. They lose their spontaneous nature and they become rigid. They're not fun to be around and they're kind of painful to listen to. So an example of that is, have you ever been to a seminar or you heard someone speak and they're just so nervous? It's almost painful to listen to them. They're constantly thinking of failure. And I've kind of been like that too. In the past, I've struggled with low self-esteem. So if someone would call me up to do something, I would just be like, no. I would almost beg for them. Could you please get somebody else? People with low self-esteem often make the statement that I'm a behind the scenes person. I don't mind helping, but I'm a behind the scenes person. I was really notorious for always saying, I'll help, I just want to be behind the scenes. Maybe I'll help, clean up, or maybe I'll help serve food, but don't put me on the panel. I don't want to speak. No, please, I don't want to speak. That is a symptom of low self-esteem because you're afraid of failure. People with low self-esteem often tolerate poor behaviors from others. They ignore when they're being rejected and they continue trying to get acceptance from the person who is rejecting them. In their pursuit to receive acceptance, they become a doormat, allowing people to just run all over them. People with low self-esteem often treat others poorly as well. They are usually verbally abusive and disrespectful. Their low self-esteem causes them to compare themselves to others, which can often result in putting others down just to make themselves feel better. This behavior is usually a manifestation of jealousy. People with low self-esteem often lack consistency and they struggle to finish what they have started. People with low self-esteem are often excellent givers, but they often struggle with receiving from others because they don't see themselves worthy or deserving. People with low self-esteem can't accept compliments. They're more comfortable with pointing out their flaws. I actually have a funny example of this. Years ago, I was out with a family member and she's very attractive. This one particular time, this lady told her, wow, you are really pretty. Your hair is long, your skin is flawless. You are an attractive young lady. And the family member said, you think I'm attractive? No, I'm not. Oh my God. I have all these flaws. I have eczema. She just started naming all these things that was wrong with her. She was like, I have eczema, I have allergies, I'm starting to get dark circles, my hair has been breaking off, blah, 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 blah. And she was just naming all these things that was wrong with her that the average person wouldn't even have seen. And by the time she got finished naming all the things that was wrong with her, the other person was just standing there like this.
Oh my goodness, I thought you were attractive.
So the lesson there was to just say thank you. I think a lot of times we women are taught to be humble, and so oftentimes when people tell us girl, that is cute, we're like this, oh gosh, girl, this is old. And it's why does that person need to know that? It seems like we're just trying to bring ourselves down some so that, the other person doesn't think we're too elevated. We say, oh girl, this is old. Oh girl, I got this for cheap. Let me tell you where I got it. I got it from the Goodwill. Or, we'll go on. And it's why can't we just be comfortable with saying thank you? People with low self-esteem often strive to succeed because they're looking for external validation. Often they're trying to impress others with their high-end purchases and big-ticket material goods. Now I want to explain how self-esteem is developed and, more importantly, how it can be turned around. Low self-esteem is usually developed from emotional scars from one's childhood. Looking back on my own life, I realized that I had this ridiculous low self-esteem. I was fearful. I didn't want to speak in front of people. I didn't feel good enough. I felt that, what if I said the wrong thing? What if I didn't look good enough? What if after I get finished speaking, nobody understood what I was saying? What if I sounded stupid? Just overthinking this, just overthinking everything. And I don't want to blame anybody. I believe that our parents did the best that they could with what they had, but I'm just trying to explain a little bit of where and how I think my low self-esteem was developed. And hopefully it'll begin to, spark some thinking in your own mind. So thinking back, I remember I had a lot of siblings, a lot of brothers and sisters. Both parents lived in the house. They both worked. They both had what would be considered good jobs. Your parents got them good jobs. And my father, I think because at that time he had not finished his schooling. He had moved to the north from the south and did not finish his schooling. So he was very, very particular about how he spoke, structuring sentences and making sure that he was speaking in a way where he sounded intelligent and, all of that stuff. I remember many times if I said the wrong word, such as, I ain't got that, or I may say, I can't think of anything right now, but if I didn't structure my sentences properly, my father was very hard on me. He'd make me pick up a dictionary and write sentences, and which I thought was, very mean. But thinking back on it now, I'm glad I had a parent who cared enough to correct me and to make sure that I was speaking properly. But when you're a child, it just feels like ridicule. I also believe that my low self-esteem was developed because of colorism, and that's a video for another day, but I just want to briefly touch on it. So growing up in the 80s, I think that the Black community was very much into skin complexion, and my sister was very light complected, very, as they say, fair, even though that's not even what fair means. But anyway, my mother is also very light complected. My sister is very light complected. Being just 2 years younger than my sister, seemed like she got most of the attention. And it's not just because she was light-skinned. She was light-skinned and she was beautiful. But I thought I was cute too. I couldn't understand why she got all this attention and people would just overlook me. And I saw it almost daily. I mean, we went to the same elementary school, we went to the same, at that time it was called junior high, and we went to the same high school. We were involved in a lot of the same activities. Our friends were, 1-2 years apart, so we were often together. And I saw how people treated her versus how they treated me. And it is usually based on her beautiful hair or her beautiful skin complexion or whatever. And I would often wonder, what's wrong with me? Why is everybody noticing my sister and overlooking me? But so then as I grew, I got married early, had children, went to college, and I didn't fit in with anybody at college because they were all like, why are you married? Why are you married? I didn't fit in there. And then after I entered the workforce, I realized that a lot of people reminded me of what I considered my strict father. I had bosses who were very unapproachable, very strict, hard disciplinarians. And I often remember feeling that feeling of, oh, I'm in trouble, or I'm gonna get in trouble, like I did when I was a child. And I ended up going to a church where that particular leader was a lot like my father and a lot like the other. Anyway, I'll talk more about that later. Low self-esteem can also develop from a traumatic event such as a broken relationship or a financial hardship. Now, I know I said in the beginning of the video that low self-esteem is not just from a one-time event. I'm more so talking about just maybe you didn't pass a test, or you didn't do well on a speech, or just something that happened that embarrassed you. Low self-esteem doesn't usually derive from just like a one-time event where you got embarrassed. It can come from a traumatic event such as a breakup or financial hardship. Even though something like that is technically a one-time event, dealing with it can last days, weeks, months, and years. So even though it was initially a one-time event, it can be drawn out for a long time. So it kind of makes it more than just a one-time event. It's also important to note that low self-esteem and the perceptions that you have of yourself did not derive from yourself. The way that you feel about yourself didn't come from yourself. The way that you feel about yourself is how others made you feel, whether it was good or bad, whether you came up in a positive environment where you got a lot of validation, you got a lot of compliments, your parents made you feel great about yourself, you had these teachers who recognize your talents, abilities, and skills. They just made you feel really good about yourself. Or you may have had the complete opposite. You may have been in an environment where there was a lot of ridicule and a lot of fear. It could have been a lot of emotional or physical abuse. These are the things that bring about how you feel about yourself. They don't come from yourself. They come from the external. But the strange thing about it is, once you have the low self-esteem, it lives in you. It is no longer coming from the external. It's coming from how you feel about yourself internally. And I'm hoping I'm making that clear. If I need to make another video, I will. Many of our perceptions and our beliefs about ourselves is not derived from within ourselves alone. It comes from what others believe about you, how you've been treated by others, how you've been categorized based on your social, economic status, your race, your gender, etc. So in essence, your low self-esteem is not a consequence of your own perceptions alone. It comes from others' perception of you as well. So the takeaway that I'm really trying to push home in all this is that self-esteem really isn't about reality. Self-esteem has to do with what you believe about yourself. Self-esteem has to do with what you think about yourself in here. The outside forces, they can form it and they can kind of shape it. But once it's shaped, it lives inside of you. So how you think about yourself, in other words, it doesn't matter how it was formed or shaped, you have the ability to reshape it and turn it around. So your low self-esteem is shaping the image of yourself. It's not the real you, it's about who you think you are. And you can change this by changing your attitude about yourself. You cannot have a belief system that's bigger than your attitude. Your attitude is your product of your belief. So these are 6 reasons why it's important that you upgrade and develop a higher self-esteem. When you have high self-esteem, it will improve the quality of your life. When you have high self-esteem, failures, breakups, whatever it is, it won't take you out of the game. When you have high self-esteem, you won't accept less than you're worthy of. That includes treatment from others, that includes boyfriends, husbands, jobs, children. You won't drive anything less than you're worthy of driving. You won't work places that you know is not worthy of you. You just will not settle for less. You will make overall better choices and decisions for yourself. When you have high self-esteem, people actually treat you better. And lastly, when you have high self-esteem, you are automatically viewed as more attractive. So these are some things that you can do immediately today to start building and upgrading your self-esteem. Number 1, pinpoint the source of your low self-esteem. Don't continue to view your past as failures. See them as all successes. I believe it was Newton. It was one of the inventors. So if I have the wrong person, you can always look it up. He was in the process of inventing something. I think he was trying to invent the light bulb. Again, if I'm wrong, look it up. The story is right, I may have the names wrong. Anyway, he was trying to invent something and he failed again and again and again and again. And somebody asked him once, what did he feel about failing over 10,000 times? And his answer was, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways that wouldn't work. Change the story about yourself. Write a new script. I believe it was Henry Ford that says, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't. You're right on both accounts. It's up to you. There's no one who can write your story for you. There's no one who can put you down when you're determined to be up. When you're determined to succeed, it's up to you. Change your associations and your friends. They say birds of a feather flock together, but eagles fly alone. I believe it was T.D. Jakes I was listening to, and he began to tell a story about an eagle and how an eagle flies high, even above the storm. And when an eagle is flying, he knows the only time he's going to see another bird is if it's another eagle. He's not going to see any other bird at his altitude. So if you want to be high, if you want to do well, then get around people who are at that altitude that are doing well. Don't try to be way down here, but your vision for yourself is to be way up here. Be with people who are up here if you expect to be up here. And the last one that I have is to start exercising and level up. There's a saying that says when you look good, you feel good. And I would venture to say, when you feel good, you actually look good as well. You know, there's things that you can do to change your image. You know, if you don't like your weight, you can start to cut back. You can exercise, you can ride a bike, you can start walking. There's evidence that suggests the people who exercise, they actually feel better about themselves. They actually feel better about their lives. So begin to level up, make subtle changes. You know, I'll be doing a whole separate video on leveling up, but that's one thing that you can really start to do immediately. Start, you know, wearing clothes that make you feel better about yourself. Learn a little bit more about trends and how you can do your hair and how you can do your makeup. There's subtle things you can do. It's not gonna like snap you out of low self-esteem, but it will start to make you feel better about yourself and about your life in general. And the last thing that I want to say is, we always hear all these cliches, the sky is the limit. The sky is not the limit. Your belief system is. No one can live beyond the limits of their belief system. So if you want to soar, if you want to go higher, begin to change it here.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to ensure that you receive notifications each time I post a new video. And finally, ladies, if you would like to upgrade your self-esteem, learn how to fall in love with yourself, if you enjoy self-help quotes or level up quotes and relationship advice, you are invited to join us on all of our social media platforms at Recover and Level Up. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.